Well, I have to admit that I am in rather two minds. I had rather mixed feelings about having this conference in the Concorde hangar, and I didn't feel particularly tearful when Concorde was decommissioned. In fact, I felt rather jubilant, and I thought that the publicity around it seemed to focus on the wonderful feat of engineering and forgot that it was and remains, I think, the plane that's had the biggest carbon footprint of any plane in existence. On the other hand, of course, the technology side of it showed what man can do, and we're hoping that man will use the innovation that we have to the benefit, if you like, of climate change. But in my view, actually, the problem is not really down to technology. I think that we have the technological skills. There's a lot of technology out there that simply isn't being used. And so in my view, it's really down to each and every one of us and what we individually do. And so that's really the subject of my presentation, is how to get individuals to change their behavior and in terms of their lifestyles. And I'm going to start with a story which happened actually only last week, and it's about me, and it's about I went to Pret-a-Manger last week, and I was buying a cup of coffee, and I ordered one cappuccino, no napkin, please. And that was fine. I got my cappuccino, no napkin. But the young girl next to me ordered a muffin and a drink, and she was given 4 napkins, at least 4, probably more, so sort of wad put on her tray. And but before I sort of realized what I was doing, I said, no, 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 she doesn't need 4 napkins. And so the chap behind the bar said, oh, you know, yes, we do. So I said, no, Pret-a-Manger's got an environmental policy. In fact, I looked it up. I found that it said that, do you find it annoying to be given a wad of napkins or bags? And I think, yes, yes, I do. And so the man who was giving the napkins, he said, oh, yes, but we give 1 napkin for every piece of food that we serve. So I said, well, that's absolute nonsense. I don't think that's right at all, and you've obviously not read your policy. And I handed him back the napkins. And meanwhile, I said to this girl, who was standing like a sort of rather frightened rabbit, you know, you don't want your napkins, do you? You must be, you know, looking after the environment. And she didn't really say anything, but she didn't say she wanted a napkin, so they were handed back. And so this reminded me, actually, of about 20 years ago, I can't really see, oh, I can see it down here. About 20 years ago, I had a sort of similar experience in Marks & Spencer and trying to refuse a carrier bag. And in fact, I was buying some knickers in Newcastle. I'd been up there and I'd forgotten to take what I needed. And the girl at the till was so frustrated at the fact of my refusal to take the bag that she called the manager, and there was a huge sort of queue mounting as they wondered what to do. And eventually I was so stubborn that they let me out of the store, clutching my bagless knickers. And a few weeks later, I was being interviewed in the Today newspaper, which was a big circulation newspaper at the time, and I told them this story, and they ran a headline in the centre pages. It says, "Green Princess risks arrest at M&S." But in fact, this is a success story because more recently, I'm actually currently advising M&S on packaging issues generally. I've written a leaflet for them about their carrier bags. As many of you know, they've started charging for them. And in the time that they've started charging, they've actually reduced the amount that they've handed out by 80%. Now, I have to say, this is a tiny issue, and it slightly maddens me, the fact that there's been so much attention on carrier bags. But nevertheless, it is an issue that just indicates that lots of small things can have an impact, and you can make changes. And I hope that carrier bags, I guess I got that one. I hope that paper napkins are next on the list after the carrier bags. And just, you know, while we're looking at sort of paper issues, you might think, well, this is very trivial in terms of the scale of it. But I was rather staggered because one of the clients that I have is Procter & Gamble. I do a lot of work with them, advising them on detergents and nappies and a whole range of different things. And I was out in Geneva a few weeks ago at a sort of panel group that we have out there, and I discovered that 90% of all the energy all the energy used by P&G in its operations are used in its paper manufacturing plant in America, which effectively makes blue paper for the American market, not even for the European market. So Procter & Gamble, as you all know, is a huge global company. 90% of its energy is used in this one paper plant. So when you're thinking about those issues, sometimes it seems very small, but can be very much more significant. So I believe that it should be up to every one of us to take a stand. And that's what, if you like, that I've been doing for the over 20 years that I've been working in this area, is encouraging people to change their behavior. And the reason why it's really important is because it has a sort of three-pronged effect. First of all, there's the multiplier effect. If lots of us do make changes, we can obviously have a bigger impact. Secondly, it helps in pushing business to make the changes that we need. Thirdly, it means that we're voting, we're telling government that that's what we want. And I also wanted to point out that, in a way, the really key thing is that now there has been such a significant change over the last few years, and it's not just, you don't have to be out there just waving the placards. I was rather disappointed we didn't see a few this morning. But you don't have to be out there doing that. There are a lot of today's campaigners are actually within the businesses that were within the whole business sector. And I've picked out GE, for example, for setting up Eco-Imagination. But it's not even just the business leaders. It's people within these companies who are pushing for change and who really believe it's important. And I believe that companies are set up not just to make a profit, and this point's obviously being made, but also to push and inspire for environmental solutions. And that should be as important as making a profit. So it shouldn't be that profit leads and everything else follows. It should be that they're on the same level. Then the next thing I just want to cover for my final points is that we're in a recession, and you might think that sustainability issues are falling off the table in recession, but I think the reverse is true. Firstly, I think that people are going to be buying less stuff and producing less waste. We've already seen examples of that, reduced demand for oil, for example. But more importantly, even than that, I think that recession is and should be a spur to rethink and reassess our values, to change what we do and think of solutions. And encouragingly, I think that even governments are keeping sustainability on the agenda, and Mandelson's perhaps surprising in terms of making the statement that he did. Perhaps less surprising is that Obama is putting it very high up his agenda. Gordon Brown, of course, makes his statement. Whether he can put it into practice is another matter. But I think the point is that he's talking about a global Green New Deal. And I think that one of the things I want to say is it's not just huge solutions for this huge problem. It actually should be down to lots and lots of individual actions. So I hope that everybody today is going to be refusing their disposable napkin at lunch, and remember that there's no business to be done on a dead planet. Thank you.